criminal on beat breaks. Never put me in your box if your shit eats tape. The smooth criminal on beat breaks. Never put me in your box if your shit eats tape.
Hey, this is Boombox Culture, brought to you by Ghetto Blaster Magazine. And once again, my name is Eddie. Some people call me the Machete. And here is where we talk about the things most people don't want to talk about or are afraid to talk about. I've had a number of subjects I was thinking about focusing on today. Mainly, it's Dear White People, which was a movie now made into a Netflix series. Throughout the past few months, a number of confused white people have been boycotting Netflix over the new series, and I don't understand why. The movie itself was released a couple of years ago, actually back in 2014, and like its cinematic counterpart, Netflix's Dear White People focuses around a series of racially insensitive parties, and it sparks tensions around campus. But let's say what these parties are. They're basically people dressing up in blackface, which kind of mirrors today's college life. I mean, now, if you've watched the trailer or if you've watched the show at all, its basic premise, you can easily figure that out. But if you go online, you'll see that a number of people have canceled their Netflix accounts because of the show, as I'm sure a lot of people went ahead and did the same thing with the release of 13 Reasons Why, which we covered last time around. So for me, this right here doesn't make any sense. But then again, it does make sense, because a lot of people aren't culturally open to viewing or understanding that life like this really does happen. The show itself openly discusses systematic racism. And if you don't know what that is, maybe you should just go look it up, because I don't have the time to sit here and explain it to people. The Dear White People creator, Justin Simeon, he went on and actually wrote a brief Facebook post describing his disappointment at the backlash he's received on the series, just based off of the first fucking trailer. And here I'm quoting: "When the first trailer for the film dropped, I'll admit the deluge of claims that I was a reverse racism and a piece of shit monkey that should shut up and go back to Africa really hurt. But now I feel strangely encouraged to see the sheer threat that people feel over a date announcement video featuring a woman of color asking not to be mocked makes it so clear why I made the show, or rather made this show." So here I thought I'd get a number of different opinions from people who have actually watched the show, instead of talking with anyone who hasn't watched it or is offended just at the mere mention of the title and a trailer, and see what the thoughts were surrounding Dear White People as a show. So with me here I have Shalimar de la Sol de la Torre. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She's a third grade school teacher with many years experience in the educational system, trying to help develop young minds. Now, I was talking earlier about Dear White People and the problems that it's caused, where a lot of people have canceled their Netflix accounts because it promotes quote-unquote racism.
It doesn't promote something that is already existent. The reality is that racism exists in this country. There are many closet racists, as we call them. And the truth of the matter is that I think that Dear White People just highlights the issues that many of us face and nobody wants to address.
And the problem too is a lot of people are just taking it at face value without even watching it. They're making their comments without any substance. It was the same thing with 13 Reasons Why, how people were sitting behind their keyboards complaining about something they themselves refused to watch.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, the reality is that there are many issues that our young children face with a series like 13 Reasons. I think that many people think, oh, this is on the high school level and you could just talk to your kids. If you're not building those relationships from early on, those conversations are never going to take place. And let's be honest, those are difficult conversations to be had. And the truth is that these are things that are going on much earlier than even middle school. We already see kids in elementary school level, and we're talking kinder through 5th grade is elementary, and you already see the be my friend, don't be her friend, look at what she's wearing. I've heard young girls in 3rd grade speaking about how they're fat, how they have no friends, nobody wants to sit with them at lunch. So the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of things that are going on in the elementary school level, sexually as well, because that's what's going on too. I've had girls, oh, you know, I kissed another girl because I want that boy to like me. 5th grade. And so the truth of the matter is that parents are not aware of what's going on. No parent wants to believe my child. But the truth is that it is somebody's child. And until people are willing to open up their eyes and face those realities, you're going to have many more than 13 Reasons Why.
Now, let's bring it back to Dear White People. Now, a lot of people feel this is a serious subject that a lot of people don't want to address either.
People don't want to address it. People do not want to address the fact that there is white privilege. People do not want to address the fact that, listen, right now I had a student of color tell me, I wish that there were more teachers that look like me. I felt exactly the same way when I went to elementary school. And I went to elementary school in New York. Out of all the teachers in our elementary school, one teacher was black. That was it.
And when you say New York, you're not talking about New York State. You're talking about...
When we speak of New York, we're talking about the 5 boroughs. If you're not from the 5 boroughs, it doesn't count. It's just the truth.
That's why you have that thick New York accent.
Yes, that's why my students laugh when I say things like Maltese.
Now, Dear White People takes place on the collegiate level. What have you seen, if anything, on the collegiate level?
I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, went to college in Manhattan. I had to take some courses out of college.
You don't have to name it.
I won't name it, right outside of the city. And we're talking during winter break in New York. A lot of teachers that are there. I walk into the campus, walk into the class, not welcomed. Most of the class was made up of Dear White People. And the truth of the matter is that I was not welcomed when I got there. I was a grown adult, and I will say I felt intimidated to the point that I spent my lunch hour in the bookstore on the phone with my mother. And we're talking about someone who's ridden the subway in New York at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was a really heartbreaking experience for me as someone who grew up in New York around the multicultural epicenter, and to see the reality of the closeted racism that exists right outside of Manhattan. So are you really not racist? Come on.
So was this Long Island?
I'm not gonna say. I won't.
This was Long Island, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So, but yeah, like I said, it does take place on the collegiate level. I'm referring to the TV show Dear White People, and what I think is great about it, especially the way this season ended, how you do see that there's white privilege, but then you see that some people have this false look at black privilege. People who come from money, who are better educated, like the dean in the show.
Let's first go back to this white privilege. I think that there's also something, I'll say it nicely, white innocence. When we take a look at my girl's boyfriend and he calls the cops, he wholeheartedly believed that he was trying to find a solution to that situation. He was trying to ease those tensions. It was getting out of hand. I'm going to call the cops because they're my friend. Obviously, every other person of color and those of us watching were just like, you don't call the cops. And I think that in part is just the fact that he was raised with the mindset that if you have a problem, you call the police, they're there to help you. We're raised, when you have a problem, you take care of it yourself. You take care of it amongst your own. Because we know how we roll. And so he wasn't trying to hurt him. And I think that that's why he kept it from her. He didn't want her to know that he called the cops.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's hard because we all knew what was going to happen. As soon as we saw the lights, we all knew that both of them weren't going to get pinned up. It was just going to be the brother.
And that's just the reality across the board, across this country, the way it happens, regardless.
And it starts with little things. I mean, you know, going back to that experience at that college campus for myself, I was taking a class amongst educators. I think that's what was most heartbreaking for me, because here you are taking courses on education. We are already educators because we're already in the system teaching and just furthering our education. And now one of the ladies in there was like, hey, you go to the Manhattan campus, like, why don't you come out with us and we can have lunch? Literally, everybody turned back to see who was this girl walking in, and then just turned around and completely dismissed me and did not make me feel welcome. But yet in September, you want to open up your doors and act like you welcome everybody that walks through those doors.
Right.
How is that possible when in your personal life, you're not practicing what you preach?
Right.
How is that going to work? And you know, kids will tell you they're not liars. So they call it like they see it. And I think that's a big problem. People know. Kids know.
Well, I mean, in New York City as well, you did say you were saddened because, you know, it's a room full of educators.
Absolutely.
Okay. But it seems everyone knows as well that in the epicenter, like you called it, for the most part, you do have a large number of teachers that get their experience going to the hood.
Absolutely.
And using it as a springboard.
Yes.
To a better school.
Those schools are called stepping stone schools. It's really sad that there's a term for that, but there is. So basically, you will have teachers who want to get into the good areas, wealthier areas, and will come to the hood.
The more affluent areas.
They will come to the hood, the Title I schools. They'll come in here. They'll spend a year or two, maybe 3, get their feet wet, and then they'll turn around and they'll bounce. And then it's really hard when you're here, this is what you want to do, you're trying to make a change, and your school becomes a revolving door. So then how do you build a relationship with your community when you're treating it like a revolving door at Macy's?
I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow.
It's definitely a hard pill to swallow.
Well, I appreciate your time. That was Shalimar de la Soul de la Torre here with me. Okay, Shalimar, thanks for your time here.
No problem.
Okay, with me right now is my man, my main man, Jose Lorenzo Aquino.
Yes, sir.
He actually plays in a band, this little band out here in Arizona called Black Bottom Lighters. And we were actually friends before I even knew he was playing in a band.
Much longer than that, huh?
Yeah, I think you started playing in your band sometime midway, like when we first started, like training together and hanging out.
Right.
Okay, so he plays in this Desert Reggae Rock band, Black Bottom Lighters.
Yes, sir.
Who are pretty dope. And what's been going on with the band?
Bands, we're continue to play play a lot of shows, and I think we're still trying to get the groove of 2017. We don't know if we want to be touring here soon or we're going to work on an album, and I think we just decided to do a little bit of both because we've been writing a lot of new stuff that we want to start releasing here, and I think we're supposed to do a little stunt in California around June and July, so that's what we're just focused on now, is just getting a good EP again for that, because not too long ago we released one EP, and that's just the way it is. You almost just want to release another EP once it's already out, because EPs usually are like 5 to 7 songs, so
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you always want to keep going, so
yeah,
that's really what we got going on right now.
Yeah, it's been a while since you released a full-length album. The last one was 2000.
Yeah, that was I think 2 years ago.
2 years ago already. Look at that. But all right, so you have that music thing going, but you and I have also been talking a little bit about Dear White People.
Yeah, the show, man. I just it's crazy too, because I feel like I've seen the show somewhere. Like, I don't know if I saw it on I don't even know. I don't even think it was even Facebook. I think I just oversaw the title, and I think I was just Netflixing it just it was 11, and it was already super late. I was just trying to catch a show, and I saw that show, and I ended up watching 4 to 5 episodes on the first night, and I coming to realize I was already halfway done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it definitely caught it catches your attention. The first 2 episodes definitely get your attention, and then just the way the whole show set up was very cool and interesting. So it was a good mini show.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to people about it. I mean, it's Dear White People was originally a movie a couple of years back.
Yeah, that's what I noticed too. I saw that. I saw that, and they actually have some of the same actors.
Yeah, they, I remember seeing the movie, and it obviously starts off the same way as the movie does, the show on Netflix, I mean. But then it just takes a different turn, and it just develops.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it just develops into a different storyline. Well, not so much as a different storyline, but it kind of gives it more meat, since it's so much time that's added to
for
it.
the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I get you.
Yeah. So I know you were saying that to you it got a little crazy. What?
I think it was more just not crazy, but I felt when it got really I think how do you say it? I don't know. How obviously the ending was the climax of the series.
Right.
For some reason, to me, I thought it was gonna go off a little differently, and then it turned. You know what I mean? I thought it was gonna be a little bit more crazier.
Right.
But it ended up just being more, the way. I guess I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it just didn't resolve the way. I thought Sam was gonna be more of the big face of the protest, and it ended up being someone else. You know what I mean? And at least that's what I thought.
Right. I mean, I thought it just focused on a lot of shit that's actually happening now. And I've told people the same thing over and over, is that these things have always existed. The problems, you know, with black culture, and the problems with people who not so much keep their heads buried in the sand, but just aren't aware. Because a lot of people, there are a lot of people that are naive to what goes on. So my thing with this is I just wanted to get your perspective on that aspect.
Well, let's see. One of my favorite parts of the whole show was the different characters that were really into to like the black culture. Like Sam was a different person than how Reg was. But actually, no, they were both pretty similar. But like Coco was like way different. But they were really best friends. But they had different solutions to like the same problems. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, I thought that was very interesting because, I mean, that's just the way it is. Everybody, you know, it's the same problem for a lot of people, but everybody just has a different solution to how they want to go about with it, you know? And I think what I meant when I said it got crazy, I think the whole love story is kind of, I think in my opinion, so I've kind of diluted, in my opinion, like those things that you were trying to say about how, like, the underlying things that a lot of people don't notice, and you know, I mean, I didn't notice a lot of it too. That's why I think I like the show so much, because it like kind of, you know, made me aware. You know what I mean? Right.
Now, did you grow up in Arizona?
No, I grew up in I grew up in San Diego.
That's something I didn't know.
Yeah, and you know what? That is a big difference. Like, oh yeah, that's a big difference, because I remember when I first moved to Arizona when I was like 15. It was much more different than obviously California, for sure.
So I mean, your view isn't the same as like everyone else's view. I mean, I just want to get your view as to, you know, like how much it is reality as opposed to television.
I felt like the way I saw it is kind of like a lot of how Gabe was. You know what I mean? Like, we you know, understood and sympathized with a lot of what's wrong and what's going on, you know, and you want to be involved in it. Is your heart like as strong as this in it as like someone like Sam or Reggie's? Like, no, but you know, you try to be, and you know, and I guess that's kind of like the way I saw it. That's the way, you know, that's the way I feel about most of the time with the topics of the show, because I mean, I never really experienced the type of, you know, racism in a way of like the show did. I mean, even though like I'm Asian with a Mexican name, like never really got it. But to be honest, like definitely I did notice it if I kind of opened my eyes and not be so naive per se. Like, you know, like I kind of came up with the idea like definitely doesn't exist, or it's not as bad, but of course that's not true, you know?
Right.
And of course I'm growing up in San Diego, that's why, you know what I mean? But of course just 2 hours north of where I live is much more different. It's much more polar opposites of those, you know, racial tensions, and of course you have, you know, more things in the news and shedding light. I think that's more important. I think that's why the show is good, is shedding light on that, right? Yeah. It's shedding light, like, whereas it is still definitely present, and you know, it's very subtle sometimes, but it's also very just blunt and in people's faces. And yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's why I like the show. And that's, you know what's funny is like yesterday, and that's why, you know, when we were supposed to talk yesterday, I couldn't wait to show you this story, because I was at work, right?
Right.
And I had this lady came up to me, super, you know, sweet lady, and we were, you know, I think I was just telling her about some socks. I was like, oh yeah, there's, you know, if you want to get more, blah blah blah. So she goes and get more. She comes back, attitude's a little different. She's a little more frustrated, and she was telling me about a coworker, about how, you know, she felt like she was being profiled, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like, I was like, what? Like, no way. And because, you know, she was a sweet lady and all this stuff, and she was like, but, you know, she's giving me a little bit of insight of her life, and she said that, you know, and she's like, honey, like I'm about 60 years old. Like I know, I've seen it. I've grown up with a lot of it, right?
Right.
And that's definitely true. I mean, I don't deny that story. And but then she told me who it was that she thought was doing that, and it was one of my friends. And when she told me who it was, then I was like, oh wait, hold on, because there has to be a misunderstanding now, because, and I didn't get a chance to tell her until, you know, she finished her story, because she was giving me a little bit of why she felt that way. You know, she was like, oh yeah, she kept walking with, you know, me and my daughter, and she kept asking us if we needed help or all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And after she told me that, you know, I'm like, you know, first of all, I was like, I can't deny that she did feel that way. You know what I mean? There's nothing I can say to take what she said, how she felt, and change it, because she felt it.
Of course.
So then I was like, you know what? I'm so sorry about that. I'm sorry that's how you felt. But I do want to let you know, make you feel better, that, you know, maybe it was a misunderstanding, because that woman you think so, her fiance is black, like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no racial bone in her body, but that doesn't mean that that lady that I spoke to, you know, that has never happened to her before. Right. You know, and but it was just kind of interesting to see both sides of it, because, you know, I could see in her face, like, it is something she's gone through, and almost at the point where she's gone through it so much that it's just like it's nothing to her. You know what I mean? That's kind of like what made it more sad, was that it was just nothing to her. It was just something that happens almost on the daily, and that's why I was like, oh man, that's just, you know.
Yeah, like she sort of expected it.
Yeah, you know, like that, you know, exactly, like she expected. That's why I was like, you know, that's, you know, I'm sorry, you know, that's sad, because when that happens to me, it's more surprising. I'll be like, what just happened? I'm more oblivious to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you know, like I said, with that show, that's why it was so good, because it showed insight where it does happen, man. It still happens. You know, I grew up in San Diego, where I thought, you know, mixed couples, you know, like that was nothing. But then there are still places that is completely looked down upon, and it's looked down upon on both sides of the family, you know, whether they're black or they're whites, or they're Asian or Mexican, like, you know, whoever. Right. But sometimes it happens still. Yeah. You know?
And you know what? It's funny, because a lot of people, when I tell them that it's something like that is more prevalent in New York City, they're dumbfounded. But it's so obvious. But a lot of people are oblivious to it, or they just don't want to see it. But you know what? I won't take up any more of your time. I know you have to get to band practice and, you know, get ready to record that new album.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate your time, man.
Hey, dude, anytime, man. Hey, and, you know, thanks for reaching out to me, and keep doing what you're doing. Let me know if...
no problem, man. And once again, that was Jose Lorenzo Aquino. You know, he plays in the band Black Bottom Lighters, excuse me. And just look out for that new album.
No stressing, smoke session, it's just a regular thing. Blue skies, red eyes, peace, love, and smoke rings. I'm chilling, killing time, soaking up that sunshine. Life is but a daydream. Blue skies and red eyes, peace, love, and smoke rings. Smoke rings. Peace, love, and smoke rings. Smoke rings. Peace, love, and smoke rings. Studio on the beat now, living life just like a freestyle. Close your eyes, open up every mind and put your body at ease. Now see, this is where I love to be. We chillin' with good company. Now pass the doobie to the left that we can share drink after this. These people act like I ain't living right. And just because they ain't about that life. And we ain't hurting nobody right. This Irish state of mind, ooh, it got me feeling like no stressing, smoke session. It's just a regular thing. And blue skies, and red eyes, peace, love, and smoke rings. I'm chillin', killing time, sipping on that sunshine. Life is but